The morning began with a quiet softness, the kind that makes a person stop for a moment and breathe. At Fort Ridgeway, a military base just outside Seattle, fog hugged the tops of the pine trees, and the distant hum of a bus entering the main gate blended with birdsong. It was peaceful, rare for a place built on schedules, orders, and discipline. That's when Ethan Price, the single dad janitor, noticed her. A young woman, small, calm, carrying a simple canvas bag, was stepping off a shuttle bus, looking around as though she had just stepped into another world. She wore plain clothes, nothing like the tailored uniforms that surrounded her. Her hair was tied back in a neat bun. She looked humble, quiet, gentle, and the soldiers noticed her too. Some smirked, others whispered. One of them nudged another and said just loud enough for her to hear. Another newbie civilian, probably here to take notes or something. The woman ignored them, but Ethan didn't. He had been a janitor long enough to see how newcomers were sometimes treated, especially anyone who seemed delicate or different. He felt that familiar tug in his chest, the one that reminded him of his daughter, Lily, who was 7 and saw beauty in everything. Ethan pushed his cleaning cart toward the woman and gave a friendly smile. "First day." She returned a polite nod. "Yes, a bit overwhelming, I'll admit." His tone softened. "Don't worry, people talk. They'll get used to you." She gave a gentle smile, one that carried warmth but something else too, something hidden. They walked together through the courtyard where golden sunlight started pouring through the green trees. The base looked almost magical that morning, the dew on the grass glowing, the American flag waving in the soft breeze, a helicopter flying low in the distance on its usual patrol, a scene that blended military strength with nature's peaceful touch. Ethan always said the base was 2 worlds in one, a system of rules and a garden of surprises. They walked past the outdoor training area where soldiers practiced drills. The new girl paused to watch a moment, absorbing everything carefully. "What's your name?" Ethan asked. "Mara," she said with a soft smile. "And yours?" "Ethan, janitor, resident fixer of everything broken." He grinned. "Except coffee machines. Those things have their own universe." She laughed. A small laugh, but real. Ethan liked honest laughs. Behind them, some soldiers still whispered. Mara heard it. Ethan could see it in the way her shoulders tensed slightly. But she said nothing. Ethan wanted to distract her, so he pointed to the far walkway. "Come on. I'll show you the garden Lily planted." The garden was Ethan's favorite place on the base, even though it technically wasn't official. His daughter had planted flowers in a quiet corner during family day, and somehow no one removed them. Maybe the beauty softened even the stern officers. As they walked, she asked gentle questions about the base, how long Ethan had worked there, what the people were like, what Lily enjoyed. Ethan answered truthfully, never imagining she was collecting far more information than she let on. They reached the garden, petunias, daisies, and sunflowers Lily had proudly planted. The morning light made the colors glow like artwork. Mara leaned down, touched a petal, and whispered, "This is beautiful." Ethan smiled. "My kid did that. She says nature listens when we're kind." Mara's voice lowered, almost thoughtful. "She's right." Before Ethan could ask more, a black SUV pulled up near the training area. One of the stern senior officers stepped out and immediately scanned the base grounds. A moment later, soldiers around the courtyard snapped into order, adjusting their uniforms, brushing off dust, whispering urgently, "She's coming today. The Admiral is here. The big inspection." Ethan glanced at them, uninterested. Inspections came and went, but Mara stiffened. Then, before she could move, several soldiers passed by and muttered about her again, mocking her simple clothes. One said, "Hope she doesn't embarrass us." Ethan finally stepped forward. "Hey," he said firmly, his voice calm but unmistakably protective. "Leave her alone. She just got here." The soldiers paused, surprised. The quiet janitor spoke up. She's not bothering anyone, Ethan added. Show some respect. The soldiers rolled their eyes but moved on. Mara looked at him with something like gratitude but also something deeper, almost conflicted. Thank you, she whispered. Ethan shrugged. Kindness doesn't cost much, but he had no idea just who he had defended, and what it would mean in the hours to come. The base grew busier as the inspection approached. Trucks rolled through the entrance, a helicopter circled low, and officers marched with crisp precision. The air changed, tighter, more alert. Even the trees seemed to stand straighter. Ethan continued his morning work inside the administration building, mopping floors, organizing supply closets, fixing a jammed door. Lily was in school, but he loved telling her stories about his day when he picked her up. As he swept the corridor near the briefing room, he saw Mara again, quietly observing a map of the facility displayed on the wall. She seemed to be studying it with unusual detail. You like maps? Ethan asked. She smiled faintly. They tell stories, even when people don't realize they're telling one. Before Ethan could ask what she meant, loud laughter echoed down the hall. The same soldiers from earlier approached, nudging each other. There she is, lost again, one teased. She probably doesn't even know the difference between the barracks and the supply yard, another added. Mara kept her posture calm, but Ethan saw the flicker in her eyes, a flicker she hid well. Enough, Ethan said, stepping in again. It's her first day. Let her breathe. One soldier raised his eyebrows. Why do you care so much, janitor? Ethan didn't flinch. Because my daughter is watching everything I do, and I want her to know what kindness looks like. The soldiers went silent for a moment. Then, with a shrug, they walked off. Mara turned to Ethan. You didn't have to do that. Yeah, he said with a soft grin. But I wanted to. That's when a large officer approached, saluted sharply, and said, Ma'am, your private room is ready if you want to prepare for the... Mara quickly lifted a hand, stopping him with only a glance. The officer immediately closed his mouth, nodded, and walked away. Ethan blinked. Wow, he really listens to you. Mara smiled awkwardly. Something like that. Before Ethan could ask more, Mara spoke again. Would you walk with me a bit? I'd like to see more of the base. They stepped outside into the fresh Seattle air. The sun had risen higher now, casting vibrant light over the green fields. The crisp smell of pine drifted in the breeze. The base sat in the perfect balance of military presence and natural beauty. They walked past soldiers doing physical training, the clanking of metal weights mixing with bird chirps. A military motorcycle rode by, its engine humming smoothly before disappearing into a path lined with tall evergreens. Do they always act like this toward newcomers? Mara asked gently. Sometimes, Ethan admitted. People get so used to rank and titles, they forget everyone is human. She exhaled softly, eyes scanning the base with thoughtful calm. And you? Do you get treated differently? Ethan shrugged. I'm the janitor. Some soldiers barely notice me, others talk to me like a friend. I try not to take things personally. And your daughter? She keeps me grounded. Lily is everything. She says one good act of kindness can change a whole day. Mara looked touched. She sounds wise. He laughed. She's 7. But yeah, she's wise. They reached the garden again, Lily's sunflowers standing proudly. Mara touched one petal, her expression distant and warm. Ethan noticed something in her eyes, something like longing. Before he could ask, an announcement echoed from the loudspeakers. All personnel report to the main quad for inspection. The Admiral has arrived. Ethan sighed. Inspection chaos. I better gather my supplies. You'll be there? Mara asked. I have to clean the stands afterward, he said with a shrug. It's not my favorite job. But hey, Lily says every job matters. Mara nodded slowly. She's right. Ethan walked with her toward the quad. Soldiers lined up in perfect rows. Officers straightened their uniforms, boots polished, eyes forward. The quad shimmered with sunlight over green grass, making everything look cleaner, brighter. A black SUV pulled in again. Cameras were ready. The officers stood at perfect attention. Everyone prepared for the Admiral. Everyone except Ethan. He stood off to the side, holding his mop, wiping sweat from his brow. Mara stood quietly near him. Then the officer from earlier walked briskly toward Mara. "Ma'am," he whispered. "It's time." Ethan looked at him, then at Mara. Then the realization struck him, but far too late. Mara stepped forward, straightening her posture with a subtle shift that transformed her presence entirely. She stepped toward the waiting soldiers, and the entire base went silent. The new girl Ethan had defended was the Admiral. A hush fell over the quad as Admiral Mara Ellington, walked across the grass. Even the wind seemed to pause. Soldiers who had mocked her now stood stiff as stone, eyes wide, faces flushed. Ethan stood frozen, mop in hand. The officer at the front saluted sharply. "Admiral on deck." Like a wave, hundreds of soldiers snapped into position. Mara's voice was calm, steady, but carried through the entire quad. At ease. The soldiers lowered their stance, but their eyes remained locked onto her, some embarrassed, others terrified. Ethan swallowed hard. He had no idea what to do. Walk away? Hide? Pretend he suddenly didn't exist? But Mara turned slightly, just enough for him to see a small, reassuring smile. Then she faced the soldiers fully. "You were told a newcomer would be visiting today," she said. "You were not told who." Her tone wasn't angry. It wasn't intimidating. It was calm, powerful, deeply human. "I came in plain clothes," she continued, "to see how the base treats people who appear to have no rank, no authority, no power." Some soldiers shifted uncomfortably. Ethan's heart pounded. Mara slowly walked along the front row. "Some of you were welcoming. Some of you were neutral." She paused, her eyes landing gently on the group that had mocked her. "And some of you forgot what respect looks like." Their faces flushed bright red. "But," she said softly, "one person, someone with no rank, no formal influence, showed kindness twice." Ethan's breath caught. She couldn't possibly be talking about him. He was just a janitor. Mara turned toward him. "Ethan Price," she said, loud enough for the entire quad to hear. A ripple went through the soldiers. "The janitor? The janitor?" Ethan stared, stunned. "Yes, ma'am. You treated me with dignity when you thought I was a stranger. You defended someone who seemed powerless. You showed the courage that many overlook." Ethan felt dozens of eyes turn toward him. His hands trembled slightly. Mara smiled softly. "Your daughter should be proud." Ethan's throat tightened. "Thank you, Admiral." Mara addressed the base again. "Let today be a reminder. Rank is important for structure, but humanity is essential for honor." The soldiers stood silent, absorbing her words. After the inspection ended, soldiers slowly dispersed, still whispering about the shocking reveal. Some avoided eye contact. Others looked humbled. Ethan walked toward the garden to catch his breath. Mara joined him. "You handled that well," Ethan said, unsure what else to say. "So did you," she replied gently. They walked through the flowers Lily planted. The sunflowers swayed in the soft breeze, and warm sunlight covered the green garden in gold. "I'm sorry," Ethan said quietly. "I didn't know who you were." "I didn't want you to know," she said with a kind laugh. "It was the only way to truly see people. And I'm glad I defended you," Ethan admitted. "I know," she said. "That's why it mattered." Ethan looked out over the base. Soldiers had always seemed distant from him, but today felt different. He wasn't invisible. Not anymore. A few days later, Mara surprised both Ethan and Lily with a small helicopter ride over the city. A thank you for the kindness they had shown. Lily squealed with excitement as they lifted off, the green forests and Seattle skylines stretching out below like a painting. Ethan watched her joyfully, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Pride, hope, belonging. And as the helicopter soared over the emerald landscape toward the sparkling city, Ethan realized something Lily had always tried to tell him. Kindness really does come back. Sometimes, from the sky. Fort Ridgeway changed after that day. Soldiers were more mindful. Officers paid more attention to how newcomers were treated. And Ethan, well, he became something of a quiet legend. The janitor who defended the admiral. Lily continued watering her little garden, now officially recognized as Lily's Peace Patch. Mara visited often, talking with Ethan about life, leadership, and the strange ways the world teaches us lessons. It was peaceful, beautiful, human, and everything started with a simple act of kindness. Dear viewers, if this story touched your heart, please take a moment to comment your thoughts, share what part inspired you the most, and spread this message of kindness by liking and sharing this video with your friends. Your support helps us bring more emotional and inspiring stories to life. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel Kindness Quest for more heart-touching moments and powerful life lessons. Thank you for being here, and remember, one small act of kindness can change someone's entire day.